Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 Podcast. It is the 28th of April, 2022. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. If you guys want to get in on the NFL draft action tonight, BetOnline is the best place to do it. On today's show, busy, packed show, John Rothstein had the report yesterday that's not been confirmed by everybody, but it seems like it's inevitability. We will have a 14-team Big 12. It sounds like, at least that's what it sounds like it's going to be in 2023, 2024, and possibly 2024 and 2025. So we'll get to that. Kevin McCullar is going to enter the transfer portal while maintaining his draft eligibility. And, he's hopping the transfer portal. Also in the NBA draft process, maintains his college eligibility for the moment. And also, Gerry Bohanon has jumped in the transfer portal. So a very busy show, a lot of information to get to. We'll talk about it all and more coming up on the show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 Podcast. Today it is 28th of April, 2022. As I mentioned, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12. You guys can follow me at Josh Neighbors _. You guys can find the show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube now as well, where we'll be using visual elements today, especially to help us sort through some of the dividing up of what we think is going to be the new Big 12. But first, have to get to that big piece of news that came out yesterday afternoon. It was reported by John Rothstein over at FanDuel. So I actually didn't realize that he was reporting for FanDuel. You might say, well, FanDuel, not a great source. But yeah, John Rothstein's not in the business of tweeting things out that are not true. If you guys have followed John Rothstein at all, typically you guys know, known for corniness, but also known for really rock solid reporting, whether it be guys hopping in the portal, coaches getting, leaving. I think he was one of the first people to have the Villanova scoop about Jay Wright. So John Rothstein, really reliable, says yesterday over at FanDuel, kind of confirming what we all thought. He said Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF are all currently moving forward with the idea that they will join the Big 12 for the 2023-2024 academic year. Multiple sources have told FanDuel. BYU, who is also joining the Big 12, has already officially announced that they will be leaving the WCC to join the conference for the 2023-2024 academic year in all sports except men's volleyball. While several sources directly connected with Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF told FanDuel that there are still many logistical things to work through in order to join the Big 12 in 2023, all three programs are still operating with the notion that the upcoming 2022-2023 season will be their last in the American Athletic Conference. AAC bylaws require programs who are members to give the conference a 27-month notice before they leave and pay a $10 million buyout fee. AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco told ESPN last September that he would be willing to negotiate a higher exit fee for Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF if they were to depart from the AAC earlier to join than they originally anticipated. So this was there was some refuting going on, not of the reporting, not saying like that's the track. The negotiations are still ongoing from what I'm hearing. But yesterday, Andy Staples was on the SiriusXM Big 12 radio and basically said at this point, it's about finding a number that works for everybody. Nicole Auerbach said negotiations are still ongoing. Ross Dellinger from SI said, yeah, this is the deal. But, it's all about finding that number. The negotiations are ongoing. He said he's heard the same thing as John Rothstein. So, I think this is where we all thought this was going. I think the first question in our minds goes, okay, well, is that process going to happen for Texas and Oklahoma? The numbers to leave the Big 12, it's going to be a much more significant chunk of change for OU and Texas to leave the Big 12 than it is for those schools to leave the AAC. But I think right now it is okay to presume as much as we can, right? Things change in college athletics all the time. But here's the thing. We thought we'd be getting these 4 teams joining in 2023, 2024. That was the expectation. Now we know we're going to get that for sure. So I feel a bit more comfortable presuming that we are going to get a 14-team conference at least for 2023 and 2024. Now, the Big 12 grant of rights expires in 2025. So after that 2025 academic calendar, school year, whatever you want to call it, once the seasons end, right? Spring sports, they end, so you won't be seeing Oklahoma. Last that you'll be seeing, for sure. This is all I can say. For sure, the last you'll be seeing of OU in Texas in the Big 12 would be, OU softball on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Plus, Texas baseball, ESPN Plus, Big 12 now, whatever it is. The last time you'd see that, for sure, we can tell you, the latest you'd possibly see it is May of 2025. So May of 2025 is the last time that you will for sure see OU in Texas in the Big 12 as it exists right now. Now, could they negotiate something, before then, whatever? Sure, maybe that might happen the same way these schools are. This is kind of the target. This is what will happen now. There was some momentum for OU and Texas to leave earlier. That's calmed down. So, we might see some news at some point in time. I don't pretend to be on top of this, but from what I've heard, and I work with quite a few Oklahoma people, it sounds like at least for 2023, 2024, they're going to be in the Big 12. The Oklahoma and Texas are. That's what we think. So let's operate under that assumption. Let's talk about a 14-team league, for 1 or 2 seasons and what that might look like. There are different schools of thought. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get to what we think this might look like. We've done some of this before, but I want to revisit this now that we kind of know it's, the process is going strong and it's soon to be announced. Let's talk about what that looks like in 2023 and 2024 at least. But first, one quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you all by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Guys, they've got so many great odds for the NFL draft. They just sent us some right now. We just got some of these. There are odds for, it's a right now, player selection position. Sauce Gardner over under 5.5. Breece Hall is on there, I think, over under 37.5. Charles Cross over under 6.5. Chris Olave over under 16. Derek Stingley over under 7.5. They've got all kinds of these that you guys can do right now. You guys go over to BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Sign up. It's free to sign up. No cost for you at all when you guys do. Use the promo code. Don't use the promo code. Just tell them Locked On sent you when you guys go there. Go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. BetOnline, friends. It's where the game starts. All right, so our friend John Williams from Locked On Sooners made a map. And this is just, ignore the line in this map really quickly. But there is your 14-team league, right? Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and let's see, BYU are all in there. So there are a couple ways to do this, in my opinion. All right, let's just take out names for a second. I think the easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is take the 4 Western Texas teams: TCU, BYU, TCU, Baylor, Texas, and Houston. Take those 4 and put them in a group together. All right. Then I would add 3 of the teams that are East. And actually, I would most likely add Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF. So you'd have division where, forget this line once again: TCU, Baylor, Texas, Houston, Cincy, West Virginia, and UCF. So the 4 Eastern Texas teams, I actually said Western, the 4 Eastern Texas teams, the 4 most Eastern Texas teams, and then the 3 most Eastern teams outside of Texas, which are those 3. Once again, TCU, Baylor, Texas, Houston, Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF. That would be your 7-team one side at least. On the opposite side, you would go Iowa State, Kansas State, OSU, OU, Texas Tech, and BYU. You could call them East and West. I think that would suffice. That would be totally fine. But if you wanted the easiest way to just draw a line, and actually, if you wanted to do it, you would just do it diagonally. So see where Texas Tech is? Draw a line, imaginary line diagonally between Texas Tech and TCU, under Oklahoma and above Cincinnati. You just go straight through there, and you guys would be able to see what I'm talking about with them. With how you basically would break that up. So once again, your west side would be, follow me along here, BYU, go down to Texas Tech, up to OU, up to Oklahoma State, up to KU, up to Kansas State, up to Iowa State. There's your 7 teams in your Big 12 West. Here's your Big 12 East. Follow me along here, starting Texas, TCU, Baylor, uh, Texas, Houston, Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF. And for those of you not listening in audio form, I apologize. You guys can't see this visually. But there you go. So one more time. BYU, Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Iowa State. That is your 7 in the Big 10 West in this example. The Big 10, or Big 10 West, Big 12 West. The Big 12 East would be, here's Texas schools, TCU, Baylor, Texas, Houston, and then out of Texas, Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF. That would be your Big 12 East. It would hold together rivalries such as Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Kansas State. Now, you would do crossover games. My model would be 3 divisional games, 3 crossover games, and you keep one crossover game the same, but obviously we don't know how long Texas and OU would be in the conference. But the crossover game for Texas and OU would be, it would be the Texas-Oklahoma game itself. And then you get to have 2 crossover games that would rotate, right? So 6 in your division, because there's 7 teams a division, so you play 6 other teams. Then you get the 3 crossovers, 1 that you keep the same. So there you can keep a big rival that way. Or you could do 2 games that are the same in the crossover and then rotate some more. So that is one way that you guys could do it. And I think that is a way that, we're talking about maintaining rivalries. So you're keeping Bedlam together. OU, Texas, you could keep together. Baylor, TC, you get to keep together. Kansas, Kansas State, you get to keep together. So you're keeping a lot of these natural rivalries together, and then you're growing some the other way. Now, there is some conversation about a North and a South division. So take what I just said there and put that out of your minds. North and South you could do like this. So let's just put a dividing line where Oklahoma is. Now this one gets a little bit weirder, but just follow me on this. So you would do BYU, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. Now the one team that would be kind of left out of that is Iowa State. It'd be weird to push them south, but I digress. You could just push them south. Or if you wanted to split it up, you could slide OU to the south and then add Iowa State to the north. That's one way you could do it. So there are different ways to break this thing up. There are a lot of possibilities. Also the possibilities of pods, but you can't really do pods in a 14-team league. Now, also, you can't just do no divisions at all because, in a no division setting, well, there's no chance that everybody is going to play everybody in a 14-team league. There's 13 other teams you'd have to play. So I know people who are against divisions because they're thinking, well, it's not yielding us the 2 best teams. Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 has no divisions, but it only works out because there's 10 teams right now. You get to play a full 9-game conference schedule where you get to play every single team in the conference. And so there's really no excuse about, hey, Team X didn't play Team Y. You know what I mean? We're not talking about, hey, Iowa's road to the Big Ten is always a good example. Iowa's road to the Big Ten title game is easier because there's no Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan every single season. It's easy to do that. People complain about that in the Big Ten. That's why they make a division list. But here's the problem: is you don't get to play everybody. So how even is it actually? Are you truly getting the 2 best teams? Yeah, in theory, maybe 2 teams best record, but you aren't for sure. So I think the Big 12 goes divisions. And here's the thing. I'm actually, if they go division with Texas and Oklahoma in it, I'm actually fine with that. I'm not this person that thinks, well, if 2 teams leave one division, you can't just restructure it. Yeah, you can. Who says you can't? If you want to put Oklahoma and Texas in the same division, go ahead and do it. Why not do it? If you're the Big 12, I would encourage them to do it so you don't get OU in Texas in a Big 12 title game. I was just doing mine from a geographical standpoint, from what makes the most sense in that perspective. But if you're OU in Texas, why not do it? Or excuse me, if you're the Big 12, why not do it to where OU and Texas don't get to have, the same conference, or they don't get to have a chance to play each other in the Big 12 title game? Yeah, knock yourself out. I think that's definitely a smart thing to do. But overall, let's just talk about this real fast. This is great. We're going to see Texas play a BYU, or Texas play a UCF, or Texas go to Cincinnati, or a Oklahoma at a BYU, vice versa. We're going to get all these cool matchups. A West Virginia at Cincinnati in basketball, a Bob Huggins Bowl, a Midwest Bowl, a West Virginia in a UCF, where that's a place where West Virginia's had so much success recruiting in the past with some of their best teams. This is opening the door for so many cool possibilities, so much potential to do different things in this setting, in this situation. I think that's great, and I think it's an awesome opportunity for the Big 12 to get off to a fun some fun footing with those other teams, and also kind of a year to get accommodation for BYU, for Cincinnati, for UCF, for Houston. What if Dana Holgorsen and Houston beat Texas? Or beat Oklahoma, or I think it'd be tougher, especially at home, because a lot of fans from those two schools. But BYU, right? What do those teams have to go out to Provo? I'm sure the Big 12 schedulers would love to see BYU go out, or Oklahoma go out to BYU, have to go win a game in Provo, in that difficult place. An opportunity for the new Big 12 to lay some claim there, to say, hey, we're still a strong conference, we're still potentially a power conference. I think those opportunities are abundant in this situation, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. But it looks like, at least for 2024 and 2025, we're going to have these teams broken up into a 14-team league. And one more look, guys, just to show you, if you guys want to go the John Williams route, where you guys go Iowa State, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Kansas, Baylor, Houston, and UCF together, and then you go Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, TCU, Texas, BYU together. Sure, that's the fun of this. There are a bunch of different directions that you could go. My East-West proposal was one of them. The North-South proposal is another one. There's so many fun, creative ways to go with these conferences, especially a 14-team. And I'm not too concerned about what happens if Oklahoma and Texas, once again, are on the same side of the conference. I really don't care that much. That'd be, you'll slide teams over, you'll rotate, you'll make new stuff. Nobody will be too upset about that. Just some schedule adjusting and tweaking's got to happen. Sure, somebody's feelings might get hurt, but in the long run, who really cares that much? All right, one more quick word from our sponsors, and then we will hit on some transfer portal news. Today's show is brought to you guys by Built Bar, Built.com. Today, go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com today. Plenty of new flavors, healthy for you, better for you than a candy bar, tastes like a candy bar. That's what Built Bar is offering right now. All right, so latest news, Gerry Bohanon entered the transfer portal. We talked about this the other day about Blake Shapen winning the Baylor QB job. Bohanon to the portal. I think it's a smart move. It's the right move for him. And everybody, we recorded on Tuesday night about the Bohanon to the transfer, or Blake Shapen, winning the job. We touched on that on Friday night, or on Tuesday night. Ugh, mine's all over the place right now. And so we talked about, how much we love Dave Aranda and respect him for that. Now, I actually have heard some people say, love Dave Aranda, being honest, but is this the best thing for the program? Should he have done a better job just making sure he collected as much talent as possible? No. Dave Aranda is a guy who practices what he preaches. There is no doubt on that front. And because of that, you're seeing right now the fruits of that. You're seeing Dave Aranda's honesty on full display. He's giving Gerry Bohanon the opportunity to go and play somewhere else. He's being fair to the player. Maybe this means they like what they have in Kyron Drones, sure. But I think more than anything else, I think he's being fair to Gerry Bohanon, and I think Gerry Bohanon, there are plenty of opportunities, to go play quarterback somewhere else. I had mentioned a lot of places, that I think are going to be open, or not open to Power 5, but like Missouri was looking for a quarterback. Oregon State was in the JT Daniels the JT Daniels market. You know what I mean? They were looking. Maybe Arizona, I know they've got Jaden Delore they like, but maybe they want some more depth. Colorado, maybe they want somebody else. Cal, a potential place that he could go. There are so many places across America, and there's ACC schools as well, that need a quarterback that could use a guy to spice up their competitions. And maybe Gerry goes down to the G5 level and is able to find some success there. But we know this is a guy who's a good athlete, right? Who's a guy who can make some plays, manage an offense for you, and he's a good leader. People really respect him. So best of luck to Gerry Bohanon. I think we all saw this coming. But, when Blake Shapen wins the job, Gary's into the portal, and he deserves it. He didn't complain, part of the competition all the way, and I think Dave Aranda is handling this the correct way. One more guy we got to talk about. Kevin McCullar kind of surprised some people and entered the transfer portal. I don't know if it's too surprising. He's going to enter the portal. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. He is exploring the NBA draft process. I think Nigel Pack is the reason why. Jeff Goodman tweeted out something interesting yesterday. He said, wow, a lot of guys saw Nigel Pack get $400K in a car over at Miami and think, I'm going to test the waters now. Let me try some things out and see where else I can go. I will say this. There's not a great track record at this point for Texas Tech players, at least Chris Beard ones, in the NBA. I don't think necessarily it's too big of a sample size, though. I will say this. It's difficult to play for a guy like a Mark Adams. He's a great coach. Everybody loves him, right? But playing that level of defense is very hard. Managing the offense like Kevin McCullar had to do, it's very difficult. It's a grind. And so maybe he wants to go and try somewhere else to diversify his skill set. In draft interviews, say I played for other people, or he's looking for NIL opportunities. It could be a mixture of both. But, I think some people were surprised. I'm not too surprised, especially after what we saw in Nigel Pack, that more guys, I think we're going to see guys test the waters of the portal. I think Texas Tech would love to have him back. I also think Emery Lida made a good point. I do believe he wants to go somewhere where the ball handling responsibility is going to be there for him. He's not a natural point guard, but if he wants to make it in the league, he's going to learn how to handle the ball. That was the big knock on Desmond Bane when Desmond Bane went to the league. Really a plus defender. Now, Kevin McCullar, actually, in my opinion, is a better defender than Desmond Bane is. I don't think there's any argument about that. I think for him, Desmond surprised a lot of people with how good he has been off the dribble. Now, is he some all-star? No, but he's dangerous, 1 or 2 dribbles. He can get to the rim a little bit. He'll pass some too. So, Desmond Bane, I think, is not a great comp, but I think he's kind of the platform of, hey, a guy that we had some concerns about his ball handling. Maybe Kevin McCullar can go somewhere and just, kind of work on that stuff. But as a defensive product, he's pretty refined, a decent offensive player. So I think there might be a market for him as a draftable player. Maybe he sees himself as an Ochai Agbaji who can have a great season somewhere with a little bit of work and some fine tuning after a draft process, about getting some feedback. I'm not sure, but Kevin McCullar in the portal, big story. We will see where he goes. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. Follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.